There's one thing that a lot of copywriting teachers will try to impress upon you when you get started in your copywriting career, and that is what they call the rule of one. It is very simply the notion that every single piece of copy that you write and put out into the world should more or less be focused on a singular thing, a singular emotion, a singular idea, a singular golden thread that weaves through whatever the piece of copy is that you are writing.
There is no way to just know in every circumstance what is right or wrong to do in copy. For you watching this right now, please don't expect that you're going to get this right every single time. And if you feel like, but you guys are talking about stuff I don't even understand, that's okay, because you will learn it as you get more experience. If you talk about one thing, it's more powerful than if you talk about lots of things. If I show you a book that is called Napoleon's Invasion of Russia, if I show you another book called History of the Napoleonic Wars, then yeah, it's going to mention Napoleon's invasion of Russia, but you're probably going to trust this one more if you're interested in Napoleon's invasion of Russia. The rule of one, as I explained in my 5-hour video, is the idea that you should focus on one thing in your copy in a few different categories. One that I tell people about is RIOA, so R-I-O-A, which is one reader, one idea, one offer, and one action. I developed that because I found those are the things that I was always hitting on in pieces of copy, which is why I teach it. The idea of one reader, I think, is the most important and potentially unchangeable rule. In basically anything you're writing, you should always be focusing on one reader. Because if you're trying to talk to, you know, a professional businesswoman who's in her 30s, and then you're trying to talk to someone who was born in the boomer generation who's about to retire, you're going to address them in two very different ways. So it's the idea of you should always be focusing on one reader. The thing that I want to talk about today, though, and the thing that I think trips the most people up, is the idea of the one idea. I generally sum up an idea as a single theme or point that you're trying to get across to your reader. There's 1,000 ways that you can define it. Some people like to be very specific and say, an idea is a benefit and the communication of how that benefit will be delivered. The reason we're bringing this up today is because I have a junior who works with me, and they gave me a piece of copy and they said, I was going to mention this other thing, but like you say, one idea is best. But actually the thing that he had omitted or had not included didn't actually go against the point he was trying to make. And I can understand the confusion, because unless you've been doing copywriting for a long time, it's very difficult to understand what is an idea and where they clash and what you should omit and what you should keep. Let's say, for example, you're writing a piece of copy and you're trying to convince someone to download an app to get medicine delivered. What do you focus on? What is the one thing that you should communicate to your one reader? Well, the first thing I said to him is, like, the only people who are going to be interested in this are people who have prescriptions, people who take medicine regularly. So that's number one. You don't need to aim this at anyone else. You don't need to try and convince someone to get medicine or to try and get a prescription. Just talk to the people who already have a prescription or order regular medicine. But what's the idea that you're trying to get across to them? Is it that, hey, it's easy to get your medicine delivered because at the moment they have to walk somewhere to get it? Should it be that they can do it from an app and they don't have to phone up anymore, the pharmacy? Should it be that they're supporting local pharmacies instead of behemoths like Amazon? And he was viewing it as these are three separate ideas. So he said, oh, I was going to talk about how supporting local pharmacy is good as well, but you know, that's a whole different idea, so I didn't want to say it. But actually, the most important point is to make sure that anything you're saying is supporting that original idea you have. Even though the main point you're trying to get across is it's easy to get your prescriptions delivered, for example, just because you have that as the main point, it doesn't mean you can't also make them feel good about the fact they're supporting local pharmacies and then not like giving to massive corporations. But instead, he just said, well, no, I can't introduce another idea around it. The one idea doesn't have to be on its own. It doesn't have to be the only thing you say. It's not like you can't make any other points.
One of the earliest like biz op, copywriting, marketing, entrepreneurship blogs in existence. It was a blog called Early to Rise. One of the things that they discovered was that when you focused on a singular thing, the copy and the articles and the content ended up being much stronger. And it made writing the actual sales copy for that business stronger as well. It's not a prescription in a, you know, take this medicine or you will be a bad copywriter. That sort of thing. There are plenty of contexts where having a jumble, a mishmash, a miasma of ideas might actually improve something. In most circumstances, what you want to have in your copy is a clear, singular kernel of an idea. And every now and again, certain other ideas will present themselves in a way that can be satellites to that kernel and support and complement that singular idea. Ultimately, the goal of having that additional information there is to make the kernel more persuasive, more powerful, more convincing, more believable.
Here's an example. I used to work for a supplier / distributor for pubs in the UK. I used to do a lot of cold outreach for that, and I took a lot of inspiration from Lyft emails. So instead of saying, hey, we're really great, this is really good, and you're going to get all this stuff, I would boil it down to one specific thing. I remember writing one campaign, like July crisis, is your pub next? That's good for a few reasons. Mainly because in that, and then in the email, all I did was just focus on this crisis that was going on and going, if you don't want to be affected by it and you don't want to be impacted by it, then come and talk with us, because we are, you know, our supply chain is completely safe. That was the best performing campaign of that outreach that I'd ever done, for a few reasons, but mainly because I was just focusing on this one thing that they also cared about. If you ask any business owner, of course they care about saving money. Of course they care about being more profitable. Everyone is trying to sell them that all the time. If you're picking on one of them and then going even further down, you narrow down into that, and you're the only one who's speaking about this very specific thing, and you're only speaking about that, it becomes a lot more believable.
There's good copy and there's great copy. What you tend to find with great copy is that there is typically one idea that the piece of copy focuses on. One good idea might be, there is no product easier to create or sell online than a simple, straightforward instructional or how-to ebook. That's an idea. It is an arguable thesis. It's not a big idea, but it's an idea. One can take a stand for or against that statement. Great copy also has one core emotion that it is trying to communicate or evoke. For example, in this particular offer, this particular idea, it might be the simplicity of it. The fact that a person, any person, should be able to do this. Great copy also has typically a captivating story. The example given was, would you be interested in investing $175 to make $20,727? That's exactly what Bob Bly just accomplished. Great copy also has a single desirable benefit. In this example, I want to show you how to make huge profits creating and selling simple ebooks. The benefit there, of course, being huge profits. And then the fifth thing that great copy has is one inevitable response. The only way to get this book for $19 is to click here now. The ability to assess your own ideas and look at and see, is this idea strong enough? Is this idea supported enough? Does this idea have other satellite ideas connected to it that actually add to the experience of reading the copy? And if yes, then chances are your copy is pretty valuable and worth publishing.